Oh, now you say vampires.
I mean, that makes sense.
Wow, right? Okay, great. As you take away the whole, some still remains. What did you have? One band. Right? 15 vampire. Your soul. You started with wholesome. The word wholesome, and then you took away the whole. That's all you go to the stuff. What kind of code can only put on my way?
Put it on the wrong side.
Cane, good. What jumps when it walks and sits when it stands?
A cane.
A kangaroo, right? A kangaroo.
Oh, come on. A cane works too.
Okay, cane. What about a rabbit? A rabbit could be a rabbit.
Weird answer.
I'll accept rabbit. You can get full credit for rabbit as well. Yeah.
I'm gonna fail this class.
Yay,
I'm not
credit on nothing.
I'm not answering these riddles correctly. I'm gonna fail this class.
Right. So we talked about file I/O last class, and so we're gonna wrap up file I/O. We'll just do a short little piece of file I/O, and then we're gonna get into programmer-defined functions and predefined functions. So we're gonna take class functions, which we've done inside of classes, and we're gonna write functions that are not part of them.
So is like having IOs and APIs? Is that how like you can get someone like some modders to make?
Yeah, like give them right. They write the interface and you do stuff.
What you should do is you should comment out all the logic and try to get it to compile first.
The API is what allows us to do.
And that's so that
Yeah.
they don't risk security.
How do you block the comment again? You it's /* and then wherever it ends you put */.
Mutators allow data to come in, but inside of that mutator we have air check. That's what the API is.
Have like a real world.
We'll see this before. All right, you guys ready for this? Remember, file I/O acts a lot like console I/O, right? CNCO, right? So we introduced FIN, we introduced FOut, which acts just like CNCO, all right? And so today we're just gonna add a couple little bit more things that we can do with it. One's gonna be get the file name from the user, because maybe that's useful, right? Right? They ask you, do you want to save, your name or whatever? You say yes, and it says please enter a file name. Right? So get a file name from the user. We'll look how to get a single character from a file. We'll look at how we get a whole line from a file, and that's about it. And then we'll switch to something else. Sound good? So yes. All right, let's do it. All right, sounds like that. So sometimes we want to get the username or the file name from the user. Right? We have to do a little something special, so let's kind of look at this. String file name creates me a what?
String called file name.
A string variable called file name. Good, right? IS string fin, right? Creates me a input file stream, right? That's why it says IS string, input file stream. Good?
Yeah.
Have I connected it to a file yet?
No.
No, right? And so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask the user to enter a file name, right? So they see that. Then I'm going to get the file name from the user, right? CN extraction operator file name. Get from the user, store in the variable file name. Good so far? You could have done this right without me really saying much of it. Right? And so now what I want to do is I want to open the file that was given that the user gave me, right? The file name that's stored in the string. When you do that, we can't just say .open file name. We have to say .open file name .c_str paren. So C_str is a member function of the string class. This allows you, for whatever reason, that I don't want to get into, allows you to open a string class. I don't want to get in there. Right? Don't ask me, I'm not going to tell you. All right? We might not even learn why that is. The last lecture of the class kind of talks about that, but most of the time we don't make it.
We may not even make it.
Especially if it's speed that this class
Which
goes.
class would we have to take to learn that?
Learn this?
Yes.
The next class? I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe not.
Oh my god. That's very
You can read the, if you go to c++.com/reference, right, you can look it up. It will tell you. This is going to talk about these things called C strings, and then you're going to come ask me what those are.
You've touched on those like a little bit before too, I think.
We have strings and then we have C strings. We use strings, but apparently, right, input file streams, output file streams, they take C strings, not strings. Anyway, that allows you to get a file name from a user, open it up, right? Nice and easy. Especially if you're getting a file name from the user, you need to have that check to make sure that the file could be opened, right? The dot fail. Because now that they're typing the file in, there's no guarantee that the file is there. Just remember that. We'll see that in our examples. Get line. All right, moving on to how do we get an entire line from a file, or really an entire line from CN as well, right? Get line is the function I can use to read an entire line. And by an entire line, I mean a line up until the new line character, right? Because new line characters means the next thing that outputs is what? On the next line. Make sense? Right? And so get line is the function we'll use. Get line takes as its two arguments an input string and a string. Right? So you put the G's so you can understand, right? We have strings with M's and strings with G's. Right? So FIN is an input file stream. Everyone agree? Right? But it also could be what? CN, right? Could be CN, right? So it could be either of those. Right? And then line is just a string. And this says read from the file or read from, right, user input up until the new line character. Right? Which would allow us to get things that have spaces in them. Right? Because right now, CN extraction operator, FIN extraction operator only reads to white space. Right? So if I wanted to get my full name, I'd have to put it in two variables. Right? Because it's only going to read white space, whereas get line reads, right, the whole line. Notice though, get line only returns things as what? Strings, right? So you can't like get a line and then we don't know how to convert it to integers or doubles or that kind of stuff. So get lines is great when you're working with strings, but not so good when you're working with integers, doubles, booleans.
You couldn't just like typecast it or something?
No, strings don't typecast easily. Okay. You have to do something.
That's fine. I just
Good question, right? So all of a sudden down here I get a third parameter, right? Third parameter is a optional delimiter, delimiter being the thing that you're going to end on. So by default, the delimiter is the new line character, but you can delimit by anything, right? So this, right, in this example, it says get from the file, right? Read up to a question mark, and take all that data that you read and put it in the line variable. Right? Probably reading a question mark's not that great, right? But you could do stuff like this, right? If in your file you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Everyone gets comma separated, right? And so I could use get line, right? Pass in, well, I want to get it from my file, right? I want to store it in my line variable, right? But I only want to go to the comma character, right? And so the first time I run get line, they'll actually only get what? The 1. And then it'll throw away that, and then the next time we'll get the 2, and it'll throw away that, right? So on. Does that make sense? So get line not only allows you to get a line, but also allows you to get to specific characters, right? Which could be one line, right? It could be 5 lines of text, right? Depending on what it is. Press on get line. All right, let's get rid of the line part, and let's talk about get. So on input streams, we can also use a function called get. Get gets a single character. So whatever the next character is in the file, .get is going to get that, and it's going to put it in the argument that we passed in. Right? So a variable, which is a character variable, gets passed into that function. And it's like you're basically saying, you take your empty box and you pass it into the function, you say, please fill it up. Right? And then when the function's done, you get the box back, and now it's got the next character. Does that make sense?
Why would you want to do that?
Well, I'm going to teach you how to get all the characters in a file. So very soon I'll show you what I would do. Right? So I could create this character called next, and whether it's an input stream or FIN, right? There's my stream .get next says get the next character in the file, store it in the argument, in this case next. Right? So next now has the next character in the file. And when I call .get again, it gets the next character, and then the next, and then the next. So you're not reading the white space, you're not reading to the new line character, you're reading one and only one character, right, at a time.
So if you're pulling like a text document, it's not going to pull those spaces. The next text document smash all the characters together.
Well, no, because you're only getting one character, so it's only getting the first character.
So if your document started with the, it would get T, right?
Right, exactly. So if the quick, right, box, right? The first time you call .get, the T comes into the program. And the next time the H comes in, then the E, and then, right, spaces of character.
Okay, so we'll take that. This was my question too.
Yeah. So it's a great way to get all the data in a file and do something like that. Because you'll get every single character. You're not skipping characters, you're not throwing characters. Right? Now that would be useful to get all the characters in the file if we knew when we were at the end of the file. Right? And so what we can do is that there is a function called EOF. EOF returns true if you're at the end of the file and false if you're not. Right? So you can loop while you're not at the end of the file. Right? And you can get characters and then output. Right? So you do things like this. Right? Whether it's a for loop, although for loop doesn't really work that great for you. Right? But a do while loop or a while loop. Right? This says, right, assuming I have some variable called next, output whatever the value of next is, get the next character. And as long as I'm not at the end of the file, what am I going to do? I'm going to loop back to the top and right, do it all over. Right? So this code would theoretically read all the characters in the file, right, and output all the characters to the console. Right? Basically, you're reading in from a file and you're outputting to the console. Right? So if you had text in a file, you could easily read it all and just paste it out. Right? And I'm going to do that here in my example. Sound good? You ready for that? Our last thing we'll do with files, and then you can just forget about them until the test. That sound good?
Is this like, does that
After the test, you just forget about it for forever. And Kevin, what do you got?
what happens if you use getLine and fin in the same program?
Oh, did I skip that?
Yes, you did.
Right. Do not use getLine and the extraction operator in the same program. Okay, they deal with the way they get data differently, and so when you intermix them, right, it actually, your prompts are going to get all weird. And sometimes they'll prompt you, and sometimes it won't prompt you. Okay, so just right now, don't mix them. Either use getLine in your whole program, or use the extraction operator in your whole program, but don't intermix it. Right? If you're a fan of Ghostbusters, right, it's like don't cross the stream. Right? Just don't do it. Which makes sense, right? There's a stream. All good. All right. Good question. Here, why don't we all look at the code, not just me. All right, so here we go. Let's write our includes. We're going to include IO stream, right? If we're moving files, the other include we need is what? Remember the include for files?
F stream.
Good, right? F stream. We're going to include string as well. And then we're starting to get a lot of using statements. Using std cout, using std cin, using std and l, using std string. All right, and then we get our new ones, std, right? OF stream, right? And using std is. And now finally I can do what in main?
Type too fast. Did I type too fast?
Good so far? I can't. A lot of using statements.
Well, you know what was kind of funny today? We were
Still getting the same errors.
talking about streams
After
and Conic stuff and
getting rid of all the logic.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, not getting rid of it, but
one
commenting
of
it.
the quiz questions was to write a paragraph on something you
Yeah,
talked about.
if
So they were like,
If you have to, you might have to go back to assignment 3A and double check your stub
and they got
functions.
some
It
sort
did
of
that.
something
And they're the
they
exact
all
same?
sexually
They all
transmitted
pass.
programs.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, no, I know about this.
I know what this is.
Yeah,
It's
it's kind of funny.
It's just standard,
Oh, I
short for
see.
standard,
Yeah.
not sexual disease.
Yeah.
Right.
Did you declare
Create
the
variables,
correct
string file
functions in the
names.
new one?
Right, see how,
I
please
think so.
enter a file name. Right. Then we get it, cin file name, right, this is how we started the class today. Right, and remember when I start my stream, right, input file stream, fin, right, I can give it the name of the file, which is file name, but I have to do this weird C_str with it to make it work. But at this point in my program, theoretically, I've gotten a file name from the user and I've opened an input file stream and attached it to the file name the user gave me. Now there is no guarantee that it actually opened, right? So we need to write a simple if statement, if fin.failed, right? If it failed, then we tell the user what? Couldn't open the file. And then, right, I'm going to return 1. All right, let's talk about what this return 1 is doing, right? Everyone good? At the end of main, we always have return 0, right? And we have a return 0 because on line 12, when we write main, the first word we write is what? Int, saying that main as a function returns a integer, right? Which means at some point in the function, you have to return an integer. Everyone good with that? Is 0 an integer? Yeah. Yes. Okay, is 1 an integer? Yes. And what happens is, when you use the word return in a function, that is the end of your function. Once you return a value, saying I'm done, right, here's the value, you don't then continue to do stuff. So return is my function. Right, and so here I'm saying, if opening the file failed, inform the user and then return 1, right, in the program, right? I was not able to open the file, program over. Right, I'm just doing 1 as a status code that's different from 0, meaning everything worked code.
So in your example, you wrote CR and exit is like the same thing.
Same idea.
So this,
We'll talk about exit today. Yeah, theoretically, you would write errors out to see error, not see out. I'm being lazy today. Right? Which means that if I write code right here, right on line 23, if I write code here, guaranteed that the file was able to be opened. That makes sense? Because if the file was not able to be opened, program over.
so your failsafe.
Right, it's my failsafe. Which is nice because otherwise I'd have to write like else and then write everything in an else block, but I don't have to. Right? Because if it failed, I'm done. Right? I can't get here if it failed. So now you can start writing some code. Right? So we're going to work on that. Remember I used .get to go ahead and output all the characters in a file. So I'm going to say char next. Right? Give my character. We're going to say fin.get. Right? So get the first thing in the file, store it in the next. Right? The next character. And then I can say, right, while I'm not at the end of the file. While I'm not at the end of my input stream, right, then I want to loop. Right? And so now I can see out next, which is the character I got. Right? And I can get the next character. So I will get the first character in the file, or as long as I'm not already at the end of the file, I'm going to output that character. I'm going to get the next one. I'll loop back to the top. While I'm not at the end of the file, I'll output it. I'll get the next character. While I'm not at the top, right, or at the end, I'll just keep it. Does that make sense? So this should get every single character from the file and then output it. Right? So I should get a duplicate in my console output, right, what the file was. Right? And I'm getting the file name from who? From the user, right? I'm getting the file name. And then now that I'm done with my input stream, fin.close, right? I'm done with that. And then my program can end with a return zero. Right? So I've been typing in lecture 16.cpp, so I can say lecture 16.cpp, right? I'm not opening the file for writing, that would be bad. But I'm opening the file for what? For reading. Right? So this says read that file character by character and output every single character, including new line characters, including spaces, right? Until I hit the what? End of file, right? EOF. You guys ready for this? Right. Does that look like my file? Right? Pretty cool? No. Right. Now let's show you where this application might work for you this semester. Right? We talked about ASCII art last class, right? No, was that my other class? We talked about it, right? Pictures made out of characters, right? And so I have one stored, ASCII.txt. Right? Because we're gonna output my.
Oh, that's awesome. ATST.
Oh yeah, this is what I did last time. No,
Yeah, he made that himself.
I can barely draw straight lines. The file needs to be in the same location as your
That
portal.
must take a lot of creativity.
Yeah, it does.
So
So you have to stand there for a while trying to figure that shit
Stand
out.
there for a while, you have to figure out, okay, what can I do in what way to make it look better?
You know, the ASCII
Why would
drawings have
this
been
be
around since
useful?
the
In your
late
last
70s,
assignment,
when there were no such
it's
thing as
pretty
graphics.
open-ended. You get to create this
Damn.
game world and do stuff in the game world. So if you wanted to have artwork in your game, since we don't know how to make images in the console, we can't. Right? You could pull in some artwork from the internet, right? And when things happen, then you could show pictures. Right? And all you would have to do is store it in a file, right? And then write basically what we just wrote, write it up in a function, pass them the name of the file into the function, and anytime you call that function, it'll output back, right back text. Tell me a question.
Oh, I was gonna ask about like using code to fire predefined images into your console.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Right? The console only displays text. Right? So we're not doing any GUI stuff, right? There's no graphics listed. Right? That's as close as you get to graphics.
But could you use those to display file after file after file? Animated?
Sure, yeah. You can. Right? Clear screen, right? You can show something. I had one student in one semester do that, where like they drew like a picture of someone falling in a hole, and it was
Like when you do like a
flip
corner
book,
of
right?
the flip book thing.
I think it took them a long time. They did that, cleared the screen, did that, cleared the screen, so it looked like it was empty. That's pretty good. You know, because you guys always have extra time on your photo assignments, so do stuff like that.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe that's not.
We got plenty
Alright.
of time to do those coding assignments.
Right. Exactly. Any questions on what I did here? Got a file name from the user, read all the characters from the file one at a time, and every time I read a character, I just outputted it to the console, so I saw it. Right. So anything, right, any formatting in new line character is going to show up. Right? You could theoretically store all of this text in a string. Right? One, though, that's going to make your source code really long. Right? It's going to look real ugly. And two, right, things like backslashes, things like double quotes, which I don't know if there's double quotes in there. Those are special characters, right? So you have to escape them, which is super annoying to do. So here, just paste it in a file. Anytime you want to show it, right, you just output, give the file name and output. Good. Questions? All right. Let's move on from files. Does that sound good? Can you do that? So let's talk about predefined functions. So predefined functions are functions that exist in C++ that you can use. Right? They're not part of any class, so you don't have to create an object and then call the function on an object. They just are functions that do something. All right, pretty much all these functions are things that take input in, right, via what? Input comes in as arguments, right? As arguments, right? The functions, arguments, and then data comes back out via return, right? And so what we're talking about is basically making some machines that take data in, do something to it, and then you get data out. Right? And so we're going to look at square root, right? But think of it like this, where, right, I'm going to have this machine called square root, right? Here's my machine, right? And I'm going to pass in 4 to it, right? And the machine's going to output what? 2. Does that make sense? Right? This comes in as an argument. This comes in as what the function returns. Okay, and we're going to see how that works in code. Does everyone kind of have the overall idea? All right. Almost all these predefined functions, you're going to pass a value in, and you're going to get a value out. And what happens in the box is basically right what the name of the function. Can you handle that? All right. We've used some already, like time, right, and rand, right? You've seen them. We just never really talked about them. I just said, here's some code so you can do your program assignment. Right? Time gives you the current time, right? So every time you run your program, time's a different value, right? And then random we know gives us a value. Predefined in C++ in libraries. So like just like we include IOStream and that stuff, there are libraries that have a bunch of predefined. And we'll see what libraries there are. So we're going to look at square root, right? The example that I just gave on the board, right? Which computes the square root of a number. Right? So square root starts with the number that we want to get the square root of, right? 4. We said 4 is really a what? An integer. It's an argument. Remember good that? That's my argument. Right, so I'm going to pass the argument in, right? I'm going to get a value out via a return. Right? Now the value passed in can be a constant value, meaning a literal, like 4. Right? It could be a variable. So I can pass in 4. I can also pass in x. Right? And then an expression. Anyone remember what expression is?
Like 2 times 2.
2 times 2, right? Some math equation or some equation, right? Some expression that becomes a single value, right? So you could theoretically also pass in like 2 times 2, right? That is a valid thing to pass in.
So it'll do the operation of that math, and then that's the
value that gets
square root.
Yeah, we're gonna get a little crazy with that today. This will be good, right? And square root. So the value that is returned is the square root that we're looking for, right? Functions only return one value, right? You can have lots of returns in a function, but as soon as one of your returns runs, what happens to the function? It's done, right? We saw that in our example, right? Return 1, we're not able to open the file. Return 0 if we were, right? 1 return. So functions only produce how many values? 1. How many values can they take in? Lots, right? Because we can make as many parameters as we want. So they can take a lot of values in, but they only ever produce 1 value. Syntax not too hard, right? Function call, right? Name of the function and the parentheses we pass in the argument. So here I say square root paren 9.0, saying calculate the square root of 9. Does that make sense? That gets passed in. The square root function does the magic inside the box. And what comes out of the box? 3, right? 3.0, good, right? Which means square root of 9.0 really is what? 3.0, right? So it's just a value. Everyone agree it's just a value? So you need to do something with the value. Which, in this example, what am I doing with the value? I'm storing it in the root, right? So you need to either output it, store it, or use it like in another expression or something like that, right? You can't just say square root 9.0 because square root, I'll get you a sec, Chris. Square root 9.0, right, semicolon, is really just 3 semicolons. And does 3 semicolon do anything? No, not unless we like store it in something, or if we see out it, right? So you need to make sure that the value that comes back, you do something with.
When we're writing that, does that need to be like double the root equals first?
Yeah, right. So somewhere you have to define the roots. I'm just assuming everything's been done.
You know, I just
Yeah,
since we're learning it.
So you need a predefined function. Doesn't matter. That's a double splitting characters.
No, it'll take what it expects to take. And so I'm going to give you some slides that say, this is the function, this is what it expects. Right? So you still need to know the interface, name of the function, how many parameters, and the types of the parameters. So you know how to use it. So a function call is an expression, which means that you can use it in other expressions, and anywhere an expression can be used. We're going to say we're going to go a little crazy. That's a little bit crazy. Right? You can do things like this. Bonus gets aside the square root of sales divided by 10, right? This says this will calculate the square root of sales, then it will divide it by 10. Take that answer and store it where? That makes sense a little bit? All right. We're going to use, remember, arguments can be expressions, right? Arguments can be literals, variables, or expressions, right? Which means that you can pass in a square root function like the square root of something else, right? You can pass in the square root of 9 into the square root function, right? So the square root of 9 gets calculated as 3, and then 3 gets passed into the square root. We'll do that in our sample. Questions here? What do you mean exact value? You can pass that expression.
And then output.
Have
it output something. The output is something like that, you know, it's square root.
No, you can't. No, it won't. We won't keep the math different. We'll always try to figure out what the best. These functions are part of different libraries, so let's look at them. Right, square roots in CMath. Most of the ones we're going to look at today, because they're mathy ones, are all in CMath. Right, so if you pound includes CMath, then you get things like square root, right, and things like POW, and things like ABS for absolute value. Right, so we're going to see all of them here. Right, so the way this table works, name of the functions are on the left, what they do, what they take in for arguments, what they return as values, and then basically an example of it and what that value would be. So you could read all of this, but really if you just look at the example, you should kind of figure it out, right? Square root takes a double n, right? One double, 4.0 is a double, and it produces a what? A double. Right? So square root of 4.0 becomes 2.0. Right? My favorite function, the POW function, right? POW for powers, like exponents, right? Takes in a base and an exponent, it takes the base to that exponent, right? So 2 to the third is 8.
So what if the exponent is like a binomial?
I mean, you can give it whatever that we know how to give it. You can give negative exponents, you can give a fraction.
What if it was like j plus 2? Is the
You can do
exponent?
j plus 2. But it's not treated like a binomial. It's just take whatever the value of j is.
How did we won't take strings?
We won't take strings.
Characters, so it's only if it's what's it doing for j, it's converting to its aspect.
Well, if you give it j, I'm assuming j is a variable. Okay. Right? So whatever the value of j is, then take the value of that j and add to it.
But if you gave it j without declaring the variable,
All right, put it in single quotes. If you didn't put it in single quotes, it would say j is not declared in this scope. Which, guess what we're talking about next class?
okay. And then so the function body for PW is going to look like the function that we created for.
Right, that we've written, right? But this has already been written for us. But yeah, there is a function body that probably has a loop in it that calculates. Abs for absolute value, right? So -7 becomes 7, +7 becomes 7, right? Calculate the absolute value. Fabs, absolute value, but not of integers, but of floating points.
Here's another question.
Yeah.
You would place the two separate unsigned, something like that, and pass it over, and then we would just take that value.
Now, if you pass in, so an unsigned int is an integer that doesn't allow for negative numbers. It will just do overflow like normal. So if you pass in -1, it will loop around and be the highest value. Place number on square root, POW, abs, fabs. We have ceiling. Ceiling takes a double and rounds it up to the next whole number. Right? Note that it doesn't return an integer as a whole number, it still returns the double equivalent of that whole number. But 3.3 will become 4.0, right? 2.7 becomes 3.0. It will always round up. 4, instead of rounding up, rounds what? Down. Okay? Just like you're writing your lab today. Rounds, right? So round up when it's 0.5 and above, and round down when it's 0.499. Exit just crashes your program. Okay, so anytime in your program, if you say exit 1, program crashes. Okay, which means that you probably should not write exit that often. Right? You should not code yourself into a corner to a place where you're like, I don't know how to get out of here, just exit, right? It should end gracefully. Right? I've used it in some of my examples with like, if the file doesn't exist, then you need to crash your program because your program can't control. Right? Overall, you shouldn't really use it. Right, but I returned 1 because I was in main. But imagine I was in some other function and I wanted my program to end, then you could exit. Because then it doesn't matter where you are in the program. It's just this is the first one that doesn't return a value. No, right? Exit 1 is a void function, which means you don't use it like this. You don't store the value. You use it as a statement, not as an expression. An expression means you have a value, do something with it. A statement just says, do this, right? And so exit says, do what? Exit. You don't need to store the exit in some variable, it just says exit. Right. It's like saying square root 9, but it's not producing a value. And we've seen RAM and SRAM, so I don't know what I'm talking about. Right? But SRAM seeds the random number generator. So random numbers are not actually random numbers, they're pseudo-random numbers. And so depending on your seed, you will get the same sequence of numbers. So you always want your seed to be random, because otherwise you'll get the same numbers. Which is why we always pass
1, 2, and 3 for the states.
Huh?
We use SRAM for the states in our shooting.
Right, yeah.
If we wanted 1, 2, or 3, but any combination.
Right, any combination. Exit and SRAM are void functions, right? So I was talking about that. I want to talk about it a little bit more. Right, void functions do not return a value, so you don't store the value. You just say do this. Right. So exit 1 semicolon, right, which just says perform this action. Exit. Right. SRAM, right, parent something. Set up the seed for your random number generator. Don't store anything. Don't produce a value. Just do this. Most of your functions that you write that I name output, right, are void functions. They say just do this, output. They don't say output and then also return some value back, right? So that doesn't make sense. All right, so some functions are void functions because they just say do this, and some functions have return types which says take a value in and produce a value out. That make sense? We're good there? Sweet. Let's look at this. We're just going to write a couple things, and then we'll move on. Like no more of that. So I need to include CMath. Right, and so now I can write things like Cout square root of 9.0. Right, Cout power of, right, 3 to the third. Probably some inlines here, so it looks fine. All right, and you can see out, right, the absolute value of -10. And then to get a little crazy for us, right, you could see out the square root of the power of 2 to the third, or 2 to the fourth. Right. Oh, cool. Right. Arguments can be expressions, and function calls that return a value are expressions. Right? And so this basically says, are you going to perform square root first, or are you going to perform powers first? Which one do you think?
Powers?
Powers, right? Because powers is inside the parens. Always do what's inside parens first. Always start inside parens and work outside. So this is going to take 2 to the what? 4 and produce a value from that, right? 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. So power 2 to the 4, right, is 16. And so this how 2 to the 4 becomes what value? 16, which gets passed into what? Square root. So 16 gets passed into square root, and so what does it output? 4. Does that make sense? Arguments can be expressions, which means that you can put function calls inside of function calls. A little crazy, right? I told you we're going to get a little crazy. Function calls inside of function calls. Right. No, you were in a function and called another function. Right, so a little bit different. But you're all right. Square root of 9 is 3. Whatever the what to the what was is 27. I don't remember what it was. Absolute value of -10 is 10, and then we just figured out why that was. Right? Predefined functions is great. Just use it. Right? You don't have to do anything special besides include them, and then use the function calls to do whatever it is that you want. Make sense? Questions there? All right, let's talk about programmer-defined functions. Right? So programmer-defined functions are functions that are not predefined for you, but functions that you can write yourself. Right? You've done this, but everything for us has been inside of what? Main classes, right? Inside of classes. So here we're going to write some functions that are not part of classes. All right? We have 2 types of functions, right? Functions that produce a value, right? So they're an expression when you call them, and functions that just do something, void functions, with their statement. Right? So let's look at this. You can define them in main, above main, below main, like we do with classes. You can also put them in their own H files and CPP files, like we do with classes. Right? Today I'm just going to go above main, below main. But right, we can also split those into their own. So let's look at what a function prototype or function declaration for one of these would look like. So this is not inside of a class, this is just above main, right? We say double total cost, and then I give it 2 parameters. Right, what does this double mean?
Type.
If it's type, it means that it's a double, but what does that mean? It's not that it's a double, but that what? The total cost function does what with a double? It returns a double, right? So you would say that the total cost function produces a double, right? Just like the square root function produces a what? A double. Does that make sense? Right? So here in your function declaration prototype, you're saying the total cost function will produce a double, which means somewhere in that function you will return a double. Right? Now that total cost function also takes in 2 parameters, right? One, or has 2 parameters, one that is an integer and one that is a double. So it takes in an integer and a double, it does something to it, and it produces a what? A double. Does that make sense a little bit? Right? It's important for us to be able to read, right, how these functions are set up. First word, return type. What does the function produce? Next word, the name of the function, right? So when I call it, that's what the name that I have to use. And then the next 2 things in the parentheses says, when I call the function, I have to give it an integer, and I have to give it a double. It would work, right? Yeah. We talked about that. Automatic typing. Right, so that's the function declaration or the function prototype. You'll remember we call them both things. Remember, in classes, I call them the same thing, but I just say it's a member function prototype or a member function declaration. Same idea, right? Now that we're outside of classes as opposed to in classes. Right, so that's what goes above main. Right, I would copy and paste that and put it where? Below main, right? And that is our function definition. Right, we're defining what the total cost function does. This prototype says this is what it is, right? This is the interface. The definition says this is what it does, right? Well, how does it produce a total?
Right, in that way you could say like the number to the double power.
Exactly. That's what you would write the code to be. Right? A definition consists of a header and a body. Okay, the header looks exactly the same as the prototype. Right? Notice though there's no semicolon at the end because after the header you get the body. And the body is always inside of right? So here I have my function header, right? And everyone see that the function body is right below, right? Exactly. So the function body is where I do what? I use the parameters, right? In my function body, I can use my parameters. I can also create any variable that I want. I can write loops, I can write if statements, I can write switch statements, right? Whatever I want to do that I would normally do in main, right? You can also do in your function body. But the only difference is you also have the parameters available to you, and this function at some point has to return a.
So you write if statements below in the definition.
In the definition, right? So you still have to be inside of curly braces. You'll never write an if statement not in curly braces, but here, yeah, you would write in this definition. And in main, all you would do is just call total cost. Right? So we think about what we just learned about predefined functions. Right? In main, we just call the predefined functions. Just imagine this as another predefined function. Right? So in main, you would just call it. Right? But here we have to say, okay, once you call it, what happens? Right? When you leave main, when you come to this function, what's going to happen? And obviously, this function is going to, right, figure out what the total cost is. Other questions?
You still have to you still have to explicitly tell them that you return.
Yes. It won't figure out what you're supposed to do. It's not that's
Even inside of that, you're doing an expression,
but still need to reach out to get to that. In fact, I'll do it in one more. Sorry, said that. Yeah, I said that. I said that. You gotta return something, right? I don't know what the something is, we gotta return something. Okay? If it's an int, you return some integer value, right? If it's a double, you return some double value. Don't say return int. Int is not a value, int is a type. Right? Don't say return double, double is not a value, double is a type. You can return x if x is a double or if x is an integer. you return 0 or 5.5, right? You can technically return an expression, right? Return 5 times, right, 8.2. It will return whatever expression that you want to return. Because expressions always become one value, and a function can return how many values? Declaration goes above main, definition goes below main, right? You can call functions inside of functions, right? Meaning like in my total cost function, I might want to call like the square root function. That's fine, right? In your code assignment, you're doing that, right? Hopefully you're doing that. Like in your constructors, you're calling set meters or you're calling set distance, right? From a function, you can call another function when it makes sense. Yeah, maybe. Like this would have been helpful like weeks ago when I was totally lost about functions. But then again, it just seems easier today because you've been doing it. But yeah, same thing. You're gonna say the same thing with scope. Now you do. So now you got 12 hours to write it. Less than 12 hours. 11 hours and 13 minutes. What do you guys? All right, let's write this. It's less than. All right, I get rid of this. I could say. I could do everything. Right? So we write the function, right? We call it a function declaration, or we call it a prototype. We write that above main, right? So we're going to write that same total cost function, right? And so we're going to say that this function produces a double. Its name is total cost, right? It takes as input, right, a number, and actually to make this more clear, like let's say quantity, right, and then a double, which is cost. So the total cost function takes in a quantity and a cost, and it figures out what the total cost of those two things are, right? So it's going to just multiply them together, and then it produces a double, which means in that function I need to return a double value, right? Return double. Okay. Just like before, the declaration and the header look the same, so I'm just going to copy it and move it below main. And then there's not much I have to do here, right? Change the semicolon to curly. Do I have to say class name colon? No, because am I in a class? No. Right? And so I could now return, right, quantity, no, not standard key. Quantity times cost. Whatever the quantity was that was passed in, multiply it by whatever the price, right, was passed in. It will multiply those two things together to get one value, and then it will return that one value. Could I store it in a variable and return the variable? Yeah, right? And that's fine to do. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Do I need a variable? No, not here, right? I don't really need a variable.
So would you in main ask the user to give you those things, or would you write a separate function of that?
I'll probably in main just write something again. If I had a total cost, I had a tax. I don't even know what the tax is. Is it 7.5 now? 1.07. That's one thing that hasn't really changed over time. Tax has always been about 7. So yeah, in main I would ask like, what's the quantity? What's the price? Right? Give those two values, then call total cost, and then do that. Now those values don't have to come from the user, right? You can hard code them in. Right? Just like our last example, I just hard coded the square root of 9 and the powers of 2 or whatever. Right? But a lot of times you got interactivity, right? That's for the user. Yeah. Hard code cost, then ask after the quantity for sure. Right, so let's do that then. Let's say cout.
Cout.
Right, how many do you want? And then we're going to say they cost. How much do you want them to cost?
$5.
$400. Oh, $400 and
13 cents.
4 cents. Yeah, 99. Really, it should be like $3.99.99, right? It only costs $300, not $400.
And we're only 1 penny away.
Right, we can do that, and then we put $1, or yeah, and then we can get that. So I need a variable for that, and right, how much? I could have named the quantity, right? But I'm kind of holding off on that because next class is where we'll really get into variables being the same. But then we're gonna have a quantity variable here. But you could in main create another quantity variable, but they're not the same variables. Just because they have the same name does not mean they're the same variables. It depends on where you create them. And that's really all we're doing next class. Is that. So how much, right? How many do you want? They cost that much. The best part is we don't even know what they are, right? It's like a mystery. Do you want them? $400. Do you want some?
Brand new cars for $400.
I don't know what they are. But there you go. Well, I get that from the user. How much? And then we could just say CL, right? Right, your total is, your total is $, and then we can call the total cost function, right? Total cost takes a quantity, which is how much, right? And it also takes a price, which we said was what?
$3.99.99.
Yeah, $3.99.99, right? And then we'll just pass in our inline, right? Once again, total cost produces a double. Everyone agree? So what am I doing with the value? I'm CIing it, right? I either need to store it, or COut it, or send it into some other function, but I need to do something. So program starts in main, ask the user how many they want, we get that stored in a variable, and then as we output, we also jump to the total cost function, which figures out what the total cost is. How many do you want? They cost $3.99.99.
5.
So we're gonna get 5 of them.
Oh.
All right, and your total is quite a good amount.
Kind of a bit of Oculus Rifts.
I don't know what they are, but you got 5 of them.
Those are VR headsets.
Well, good question. What if I said 0.001? Anyone know? Well, when you convert a double to an integer, does it round up or does it turn? Right. So what am I gonna get? Can't count to $0.
You can't have one 100.
I'm only working in what? Whole units. Right?
You can't have one 1,000.
Oh, 1.001, apparently different. I need an if statement, right? Say if, right, quantity is 0, sorry, you don't get it. Yeah, right. Yeah, so we could do something like this. Since we're here and we can do that, we could take quantity to the ceiling, right? Which always rounds up, right? Ceiling always rounds up. So now there's no workaround, right? You want to buy 0.001, well, guess what? Oh, what did I do? Oh, because, right, I have to make it a double. Because 0.001 converted back to, right, an integer will always be 0. So if I make it a double, then.
Oh. So if I get 1/1000th, I get more than one?
That's a little bit more. Have I ever told you that floating points are terrible to do like money math with? The floating point values don't actually hold, right? If you think about it, the floating point value, right, between 0 and 1, how many numbers are there between 0 and 1? An infinite number, right? Well, floating points can't hold an infinite number of numbers, right? That's not possible, right? So what floating point values do is get you really, really close to the number that you want to be, but they're never, they're not always the exact.
It's never.
Right? So you're close, right? I can put it back up. All right. Questions?
Nope.
All right, you want to see your lab?
Sure.
Kind of got done on time today. Which is a
For
record.
the first time.
Really?
Yeah. For the first time in forever.
I'm aware.
Alright, lab 16 has, I think, 5 questions or 6. First couple will go pretty quick, the last ones aren't too bad, but they'll take a little bit more time. Alright, question 1, which is A through F, says convert these expressions, mathematical expressions, to C++ expressions. Right? And since I'm a nice guy sometimes, I'll even do the first one for you. Right? So what am I asking for? I'm asking for the square root of what? X plus y. So the answer to 1A is just what?
Just QRC.
That makes sense? It's an expression. Do I need semicolons? No. Do I need to store in a variable? No, right? I'm saying just write the expression.
Oh.
You don't need to see out it. I mean, you can see out it to test it, I guess, if you want, but that's the answer to that one. There is no plus minus symbol, right? So for E, you have to write it twice, right? Once with a plus and once with a minus.
Why do we have a negative and positive version? Because there's no absolute value symbol on E, it would be on F.
Right, man, that's the, what, quadratic equation? Yeah. Yeah. So that's just how it works. Because with, right, for the quadratic, because you can multiply two negative numbers to get a negative positive value, or you multiply two positive values. And that's as deep as I'm going in math. So I
was hoping to have left that.
just write it all and then copy it. Question 2 says, what is the output? So I wrote the prototype, I wrote the definition, right? So imagine that it's predefined for you already, right? You're going to call mystery, pass it a 10 and a 9. So the first parameter becomes a 10, second parameter becomes a what?
9.
A 9, right? You'll notice that it outputs that character, right? Because mystery returns a character, and then OW. Which means either the answer is going to be wow or wow. Right? And then, right, question 3 is question 2, except instead of the function call being 10, 9, it's what? 9, 10. Once again, the answer is either how or wow.
There's a 50% chance of failure.
Right? You're just guessing.
Success.
Yeah.
Question, I'm going to come back to question 4.
Oh.
I promise I will come back to it. Question 5, write a function and definition. So you're going to write the prototype, what goes above main with a semicolon, what goes below main. For a function that has 3 arguments, well, it takes 3 arguments. So how many parameters does it have? 3, right? All of type what? Int. So 3 integer parameters and returns the sum of those 3 parameters. You don't need to store, right, the sum in a sum variable and return that variable, right? You can just return, right, x plus y. That was pretty easy, I think, overall. Question 6, same thing, except now you're writing a function is positive. Is positive takes in a double and returns a character of whether or not that number is positive, greater than 0, or negative, which it says is negative or 0. So greater than 0 returns a p, 0 and below it returns a n. Right, so that one needs a simple if statement inside it. It's not really negative or positive.
I think I'm gonna have to do this later.
Let's go back to 4. Right? 4 says, given the following function declaration, write the function definition that will round a number. I.e. 5.2 becomes 5 and 5.6 becomes 6. Right? So here you'll notice the round function takes in a what? A double and returns an integer, right? Round that double either up or down depending on the 0.5. Which is easy to do if you know, right, that the number is between 5 and 6, right? Because then you can just say if the number is less than, right, 5.5, right, return 5, otherwise return 6. Easy for that, but, right, no guarantee it's going to be between the range of 5 and 6. You don't have any ideas?
If you make a mistake of checking the number minus or number is less than 0.5, you can return the lower number. If it's greater than 0.5, you return 6.
So what we're talking about is removing the whole number portion of it, and then you can compare it to 0.5, right? So if we take 5.2 and we subtract the whole number portion, we get what? 0.2. And if we take, all right, 8.8, and we subtract the whole number portion, all right, then we get what? 0.8. And so now you can compare to 0.5, right, and go up or down, right? And we were saying to get this number, we take the what?
If you take numbers, like subtract floor number.
Right? Does that work? Yeah, that's a great way of doing it, right? Simple if statement to do it. If you're scared of if statements, this is the other way you can do it. Let's look at 5.2, 5.49, 5.5, and 5.9. 5.2, and what are we rounding by? What's the thing that we determined? 0.5, right? So if I take 5.2 and I add 0.5, what do I get? That make sense? And if I add 0.5 to this, what do I get? 5 point. So if you add 0.5 to it, you'll notice that the whole number portion is your answer, is it not? Right? 5.2 is supposed to round to what? Why would you put that back on the board? Sometimes I wonder, right? 5.2 is supposed to round to 5 or 6, right? Notice that's the whole number portion here. This is also supposed to round to 5. This is supposed to round to what? 6, right? And we just showed you how we get the whole number portion out, right? You take the floor of it. You can write a simple if, or you just take the floor of the number plus 0.5. Both do the same thing. Both work. Both are great ways to do it. Questions there? All right, get cracking on that. That way you can ask questions about the code assignment.
Many questions needed.
Oh, yeah, with the code assignment. Hold on, I'm gonna bust this out. Yeah. Oh, we're gonna give a headline. Oh, I'm getting it. Hold on. The only thing that you can do technically is that you can find it. Okay. You'll see. So you're saying here's the profile function that takes to the other. Like when we actually start writing. You'll see it like that. Right. Around some food, that's fine. You don't need to. It turns on the function. So that you can. Yeah, that's something that. Right there. Yeah, just do that. Request it, right? These are parameters, right? So you're not requesting it, you're just saying that when this function is called, you will have a link. You're just going to be saying, well, if you include a link, right? So here you say
value you're trying to store. Unit is telling you what is that value. Right, so this conversion is good, right? Meters underscore, right? If you're saying if the values are kilometers, right? Then meters underscore can be some value. You just don't have a variable called meter. Right? You're very everything is self. This function meters. This function. They all share. Not right now. Yeah. So if you take this like right, you take what you did, right? Just change all this to this. Right? You said basically you said if you're in this if statement, then the length is longer. Right? That thing's going to store as meters, so you have to take that length, which is longer, convert it to meters. Yeah, we're not saying, yeah, it's saying it's looking for something called meters. You have to convert it. Well, not necessarily, but yeah, because ceiling always rounds up. Yeah. So you don't know. Numbers are different.
Oh.
You didn't even get to the top one.
Number 6, right?
So you're not the audience.
Okay, so I went to
No, right here.
Yeah, because it says in the instructions that they don't.
Put a jam in there. No, there's the function was just.
That's part of the question.
Right, so what's throwing off is that the double sign character.
Yeah. I was just like made by
And then an extra step is this is the variable.
Just make sure double quotes means string. So on line 39 and 41.
But yeah, this whole lecture, you want to get better. No, because the easiest way to tell is if you write a loop. Because recursion is a loop expression. And so, right?
Here's your palindrome, right?
right? And so the first iteration of your chain iteration is going to be what the first time you call. You're going to compare the net zero, one side. And if they're not equal, then you can walk through that. Otherwise, you're going to call the function for this time you're only because then it'll go back to the top of the function, right? You're going to pass this in, and then it's going to pass that. Yeah, there's I think you're looking for EFS. Whatever your string is, not such. You just write on one. So that's what you have there. And then now A scale but every time you come in, you have a new one, so it's always going to be, because the first time you have to hold it, and the second time, because really, the first time you call it, like, I'm just going to say is palindrome, right? If this is my call stack, right? I'll call this palindrome, and I'll put race car on the stack. Right? And inside the race car, if these match, then I'm going to call this palindrome again. And then if those match, right, then I sign with it. Right, and then the next time it goes match. Right, and I'm pretty sure it's a so that's true, true goes to true, goes to true, goes to true, goes to well, before you actually have to write it. So this is the above nation, right? So if you just look at what I did here, right? This is the above thing. So now you can base it for well names and then actually have very this is the function. That's right. Oh, whereas you I titled it is really more.
So those would be everything. If this is.
VFLs would be inside of the round function. Right. And so this should be round. Its prototype is this. So it's this. I gotta get people in class. Okay, so to call a function, you just say the name of the function and you pass it back. No, all you have to do is so really this code, right, is kind of the same code as this. So basically you just want to say, if I'm here, just go to that other function. Okay. So to call another function, you just say the name of the function. Right, and because this function takes on a double, you have to change it. Okay, you don't double that you have. It basically says when you come into this function, you'll have some value. You're going to say take that value and just send it to that function. So then it'll go down here and it'll do all the the goal was for you not to have to. Okay, that's the goal. Basically, it's like this code.
Yes, I do.
Are you also want to work the first day or not the last day?
Well, no, those ones have one, that's not. So here's one. Yeah. You're trying to get values because like what are the values? Right. You don't know the values. Parameters are just placeholders. So the values are passed in from somewhere. Yeah. So in your mind, you can make up values for them. If that helps, but don't actually write them. Okay, so because if you do that, then you're always going to be the values. You don't want to go to it. You want to do whatever you have to do. That makes sense. So here's your output, right? So compiling that gives you what these numbers are. This one has a code because for me to get a value out, right, I have to plug it. So we can plug this. That's what I was returning the data set. So it's also called new data flow. So most of this I'm looking except for you wouldn't break it down, kind of like focusing on if you're gonna like if, then what you're really gonna do is you're gonna take the number. Well, you're gonna take the number and subtract the whole number portion from it, which is the floor portion of it. So all of this, that operation, all of this, right, is greater than 5. Right, I just use a kid. Right. Take whatever the number is, subtract the whole portion from it, because you'll always get a number between 0.0 and 0.1. And that value is I always right. Okay. I still have questions. Okay, well this is the older one, right? So that's kind of my problem. I didn't write anything. I didn't know where to start. I felt like everything was written. So all right. So these are the 5 you wrote last time. Right. So you can copy them and you can paste them on.
Okay. All right. I am like, I've been sitting here for like 10 minutes trying to figure out what the fuck I'm supposed to do.
Are you doing a lab?
Yeah. No, I'm doing the coding assignment.
Oh, okay.
Like I'm reading the definitions of what's supposed to go in these functions, but Am I supposed to define what all these mean? These characters? Am I supposed to define what their conversion is? Like
Yes, I
okay.
did.
Alrighty.
I had to look up how to do that.
Yeah. So
But I
guess-
have it.
So if it only accepts, meters.
It only accepts meters, so if they give you kilometers, you need to divide by 1,000.
Yes.
I have everything you need to do to help with that.
Okay, so I have to define all these somewhere. So I would have to say like character E equals meters.
Whenever it's checking, whenever there's a character unit present, you need an FL statement to check which character.
Okay. Let me just look at this real quick. Yeah, I have to define them because they're being used in the distance unit test, but I need to define them somewhere.
Yeah. Which is saying that our job is write the function definition.
I'm recognizing this as
So I define them like before all the functions start, or do I define them in the functions?
I define them in the functions.
But
But as you see, I have a problem. I don't know if that's it, but maybe don't try to be like me. Just to be safe. Distance.cpp. I just made a bunch of if statements, and every time a character shows up, I do the conversion.
Okay.
So this is the unit test.
So if the unit's K, meters underscore equals meters divided by 1,000.
Okay.
But it gets a lot more complicated than that.
Reading what they do. So the first one's easy, right? First constructor. Constructor number one sets meters underscore to 0. So you can just call it. Yeah. Okay. Easy, right? Okay. This is your hardest one because it takes 2 parameters, and really that just calls set distance. So it may be better for you to write not these 3 things first, but to do all these first. Because all of these just call those. Pass in that. Pass the ending on. For all the voids. For all language.
Because these are the ones that mutate.
Doesn't mutate. Right. So if you look at it too, like it says mutator, like so that should these are my conversions basically. The mutator says the distance will come in meters and this function will set the internal length. Yeah. So the value of the right. So in the set meters function, this meters comes in, right? And if it's negative, you're going to set it to 0. Otherwise, these won't have. This one's not. This is.
I have to set a error check to make sure.
That's just simple stuff. These are the ones that have. All 3 of these have units. Right, so unit. That unit is based on what
So I need to write something.
it's like if unit equals E, else if unit equals K, else if unit equals. And so for set distance, the unit comes in, but the length comes in as well. So basically, if this is a K, then this length is kilometers. We only ever store things with meters. So if the kilometers converting to meters, that's what's happening in here. Set distance. Converting yeah. Set distance, take a external value and store it in meters. You're gonna have to convert. Get distance and output, they're the opposite. Take the internal meters underscore value, the unit tells me what I want it to.
Have you finished all
So
that?
I want it in kilometers, then just take meters underscore, return meters underscore. So both of these are your ones.
There's fathoms in meters.
If unit equals this, else if unit
Oh,
equals this. Do one at a time. It's compiling now, right? So
1 fathom is 1.8288 meters. Okay, that's pretty bad.
yeah. Oh wait, you're not. Oh, I might have done my logic wrong. Damn it! I checked back and forth. I should do my logic wrong.
Oh, you're still on that one. That one, turned it in already yesterday.
In that case, AC, and then UCL, and then whatever. And then I might get back to that.
The big thing, I saw you get distance. Your set distance looks pretty good. If you think about what we talked about today, big distance. So you're not going to convert meters underscore and short that meters underscore. Instead of meters times equals 1,000, you're just going to return. You're not going to change meters. The meters don't, right? So if you take meters and you times it by 1,000, all of a sudden you have way more meters. So really, you want them to go up, right? Yeah. So if you change all those,
but you need to make sure that it's talking to.
Sure. So to call a function, you just say the name of the function, and then whatever value.
Okay, I think I'm getting it now.
So if we go to distance,
I'll just say this is E now, I guess. E is meters, so it'll just be 1 to 1.
Now this function and basically what that says is that okay, the user says I, right? They want it in inches. They want you to output meters at inches. And so this says, okay, go to the distance API.
Yeah, it's the same thing that you're changing. That's what we did.
Otherwise, you
Basically
write
the same thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I sent you it, so you're gonna at least write it.
So these two are this one is
Okay, so this one
multiplies and just divide. Right, the big thing here is that in here you took the length and width and we're going to do that. This is called
Double
This one's called get length
equals number.
So notice that set distance was always one.
Oh wait, no, I think if I'm
It wants you to return a double. Yeah. So if the case is E, right? We're just going to return. This is going to be a double. Well, they want it in meters, so they need to do that. See if I can make it 10 minutes.
Yo, did you get the number 4 written out already? Number 4 on what?
The lab.
The lab?
Or
did you already finish that? Yeah, I finished that already. If you don't have it up, it's okay.
You not have it?
No, I do. I was just gonna see if I did.
Oh. No, I'm working on it right now. I haven't been able to do it. So you think you did it wrong, I don't know how to do it.
Basically, they're saying they want the distance in belong. You only have it right now. You need it. Well, so you can times it by 0.01, or you can, or you can just you have to
Oh no. My program crashed. Or my web page crashed. Oh, there it goes.
Oh, okay.
really, like, you store stuff in variables that you're not going to keep it.
Floor is 5.2. Okay, I got that.
Like, so it's the same thing, because you're switching or it's in on a character, so you
people like this.
So you're probably just saying, like, yeah. Basically, this is going to be negative. So if you do a negative number, you want it to be the parameter.
Shit. Gets me every time. I have to change it to assignments every single fucking time.
Yeah.
Wait, where do you do that actually?
So,
Do you need help finding the runners?
if you have else, before you fill them in, but what you do inside runs good. It's all the same.
I'm wondering where all these if-else statements would go. I'm pretty sure they go into a function, right? Would that be in set distance?
They go
Probably.
multiple places that I see.
And I know that because it has to start from somewhere, I'm going to put this on set distance.
So yours an actual
I asked you if you guys needed a fourth because I kept saying 3, but did you guys just have someone die every time? It was for like 30 minutes. I was like, what is it? You know, like some people just don't play the style you put in. But where do you like? Some people are like not team players. I play a lot of logos, so I need just like a group mentality. Like someone makes a call, follow it, not like, oh, we're all landing, you know, lucky, but you end up at like the edge of fatal in the rock quarries. Like just because you know, like go with us, you know, follow, you know. That guy was like that. I'm gonna land a mile away from you guys. That's how I felt. And so used to playing with the same guys for like the last like 6 or 7 years. You have like the same group of 5 or 6 people. Yeah, this is hard to get something. This Explosions one's fun. I would play duos with you, but you're always with and you guys couldn't handle adding PC players to No, it would make you so much better. What did you get started? What did you started for you? Can you I'm not getting
I need Lucas. Maybe I need his input on where all this shit goes.
I don't need his help on like that particularly. I'm also struggling on the lab though.
John, what question?
4.
What is question 4?
The writing function definition for rounding.
Yeah, exactly.
I see Lucas in the back.
Lab 16.
Yeah, the one we're doing right now.
Oh, that one was hard.
I'm glad I'm not like stupid. That's awesome.
That was hard. I had to initialize. Oh, no, wait. I had to initialize a double called number, and then I made another. Well, I made a function that checks to see if it's between. Well, if it's less than 6 and it's less than 5.5, it rounds down to 5, and if it's less than 6 and it's greater than 5.5, then it's 6, because it'll round to 6.
Ooh, that doesn't work.
That wouldn't work?
No, he wants it to be able to work for all numbers, not just those ones. I give up. Okay.
I gave up on that now.
Just take it. It's wrong. I don't care. It works out.
Help, Daniel. Yeah, I need Lucas to tell me where all this shit goes, because I have all of this. I have the conversions for all the different measurements. I just don't know what function it goes in. Because I know it has to go into one of the functions, and then you have to call the function in order to convert it.
I'm in like all my functions. I have it 4 times.
I think it's supposed to be in the set meters function. I'm gonna put it in there.
I have this really crazy ability to just be able to make if-else statements on one line. One line. It'll actually run that way, but the trouble for most people is the logic of it. How many curly braces, and it works out fine. I'm crazy, man. It's my super programming power. If-else statement, man.
I'm gonna run this and see what happens. Oh, it works. Except I now have to make the logic for everything else.
At least yours compiles.
Yeah.
I'm damn sure I have the logic down pat. I just can't get it to compile.
You don't want to do that, right? Your get distance, you already have the distance. Right? Get distance says get the distance from your object.
What the? Oh, wait a minute.
What type of that?
Get distance, notice the first word is object. That means that this function is getting. So you're not getting it from it. This isn't get from the user, get distance 4 or 5 point distance.
Wait a minute. Move this somewhere.
So you're going at some point, you're going out to so if the unit is B, you will want to use. That's what it is. Right. But, right, kind of like what you
No.
you have to check. Right? Yeah.
Did you forget parentheses? No?
You?
It's asking me that. You forgot parentheses, didn't you? No. It's still broken.
Like, if round equals double number minus floor of double number. Oh.
Wait a second.
Oh, wait. I could do 4 or 0. Double number minus floor.
Well, because you want to return
5.
So when you get into recursion, if your function returns a value, you should always return the function call because you have to propagate that return value throughout the whole stack.
Okay, Luke, I just have one question. Where do I define all this? In what function? Because
you define it in set distance, get distance, and output.
Oh, okay.
Now this one looks like it.
I'm in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one's probably.
So I put that in set distance.
Probably set distance, right? Are these going from? Is this me? Yeah, this is meters converted to kilometers, right?
Yeah, it's converting meters to all the different types.
Okay. So then, in set distance then.
Mm-hmm.
You'll notice that in set distance, right? You did it with meters because you were in the set meters function.
Yeah.
Now you don't have meters, you have length.
Oh.
And so what happens is if, and make sure you say, you can't just say A because A is always true. If the unit is A.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right, then basically meters underscore gets assigned length. Basically replacing meters with length, and then everything gets stored in meters underscore. Okay. So they're all going to look like this. So you have the right idea, but they always have to say this. For set distance, you're getting a length in, right? And so you're going to take that length, convert it to, in this case, A, fathoms or whatever, right?
Yes.
And then store it into meters underscore.
Okay,
So
and the conversion's already still here.
Yeah, so that should be meters underscore equals length times the conversion factor.
Okay.
The same thing, meters underscore, that one's easy. Meters underscore equals meters because it's meters, right?
Yeah.
I for inches, meters underscore equals
length
times the conversion factor.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm having trouble on Lab 16. I'm having trouble on coding assignment 3B.
Okay.
I think coding assignment 3B is more important.
Okay. I tend to agree with you then.
Yeah. I have a whole bunch of logic, and then still suggest automating it out.
Just to get it to compile.
Because every time I just get expected unqualified ID before double, expected parentheses for double.
So like this one, let's see. This one here, you're missing the distance colon.
Okay.
And then this one, you're missing the name of the function. The name of the function set.
Yeah.
I don't know, you're missing the name, right? The name normally goes here.
Miss my S. How did that happen? That's the first key.
So that's what that one means.
And then
up there, you gotta say distance colon. Type distance again. You gotta type distance again, right? It's always class name colon function name.
okay. I get different errors. More of them.
I'll scroll up.
ISO C++ forbids declaration of set distance with no type.
So you must have lost your return type. Okay. Probably, I think it was just void, right? You lost the first word, void.
Oh.
All right. Basically, what you could do is that you could take this H file, put it next to each other, and then you could look and be like, okay, here's your set distance function, which should be void distance, set distance, double length here. You know, right? They should match. So now they match.
Okay.
Which is good.
Well, looks like what?
It's just running from the wrong file.
Okay. I'm gonna say it already existed a second ago.
Forgot about this line.
Sorry, F5 doesn't work on my computer.
And then function definition is not allowed here, so that probably means something with curly braces.
Check those.
Right, here's an open curly, right?
I commented it out.
Right, yeah, it's right there.
It has to do with the touchpad.
There we go.
Oh no.
Definition, so you must have set distance in there. So here's set distance here. Here's set distance here.
I thought those were different. One was a mutator, right?
Well, the mutator's here though. There's the mutator.
Oh.
This one, I think it's
That one's not important.
I think this one we just get rid of. This kid wasn't even touching it. Come on, leave me alone. Oh, you know what?
He's using Windows 8. That's the problem.
No, I'm barely touching your finger. I'm touching this on
That's
accident.
what it is.
That's what it is.
Never gonna
Okay.
remind me about this again.
All right, perfect. Never again. Thank goodness. You don't want us to waste our time.
It's all
on
Windows
that,
8's fault.
right? So get this down. I comment that out. For your last one, you can't have. You only have the.
That's how it was written in the.
I know, but you can only have it in the H file. Default arguments can only be in the H file. And so now it just says that you're missing one of your constructors. Yeah, which is what you're missing. This one. I stubbed that one out. Yeah, that one. You're missing this one. So write that one there. And then you should be good.
So Luke, one more question.
Copy it over there.
Where else did you want me to put all these conversions?
Well, get distance are the conversions, but they're the opposite conversions. Because in set distance, you're taking a length in, and you're storing it into meters underscore.
But in get distance, you
already have meters underscore, and you're converting it out. So you're returning meters underscore converted to whatever they're asking.
Okay.
So that it's just the inverse of what.
Okay.
Declaration of distance of care outside of class. Like it never ever freaking works.
So if you want to store it in a variable, that's fine.
Oh my gosh. Lou. It's very wrong. But it's there.
Oh yeah.
Finally, now I can comment back in all my logic.
Lost connection to server. What the? What kind of bullshit is that?
I don't know, man.
I keep losing connection to the server.
I've never had that problem ever. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, because then, right, because basically what you're saying is, oh, wait, I said 0, and you said, oh, okay, unit.
There it goes. Invalid unit. Testing constructors, distant objects. Yours, 0, actual 0.
Yay!
Distant object 10, yours 0, actual 0. Or no, yours is 0, actual is 10, so it broke.
Fix that one.
Doing something wrong there.
Before you switch, you have to switch to do this case. None of the object. So then now inside of these, you're not returning the just C out. Whatever it is. So it's always gonna be, let me find the right now. Okay. So you're gonna C out.
Damn it!
This case, because
It is no longer compiling.
Does something happen now?
Yes! Yes, I had it. I had it.
it's just one in the.
I had it.
So it's one in the name, it's one in, right, they want it in E, they want it in meters, and the actual one.
What's this? This one is
This one's K.
distance.
So it's gonna be right meters divided by 1,000.
So it's asking.
He commented some things out and then
Yeah.
told me to add some stuff in.
AC.
For mine.
Did they shoot a knife or just started? Okay.
Okay, so.
Invalid use of member function. Did you put the parentheses? 48.
The parameters are that.
I'm just gonna stick this right there and see what happens. Fuck! Lost connection to the server. Why do I keep losing connection to server?
That's a big best.
There it is. I got it.
Member function.
Still not working.
Right.
Try refreshing your page, man.
No. I ran the code and it's not working. There's something wrong with the logic here.
Oh god. Member function, void distance, set distance, double carry. Error, no matching function for a call to distance, set distance, unresolved, overloaded function. Candidate is.
It's starting to piss me off.
Set distance, double length, carry. Oh, candidate expects 2 arguments, 1 provided, invalid use of member.
See what happens.
Convert distance meters from type double to type double.
Still not working.
What?
No, it didn't work, but it didn't do.
Oh, from type double distance.
10 meters in miles.
Type double.
Uh-oh. I'm starting to understand the logic, but I think I might have broke it.
I broke it too. Again, for like the 8th time.
So that's the data. So if you're gonna write CN, those 1, 2, 3.
Let's delete that real quick.
What did I do? It was working just fine. It worked just fine. So like I guess I screwed up my logic. I didn't want to. Practice. I'm just so upset now. Alright, back to the lab. About to get his help again.
Set meters underscore to the supplied value in distance. I think I did that. Set meters underscore to the supplied value. You may just want to call the set meters mutator function. Okay. Fuck. Set meters doesn't exist.
Well, that's yours. Yours is more precise.
Yeah. It just means that maybe like you multiply by 5 or something.
Okay, I'm supposed to put this in output. Oh. So one of them's working. No, that's not working.
Yeah, looks like there's a space. But this looks like it takes in 1 bar, right?
I got the output right. Yay. See, yours invalid output, actual invalid. No, it says yours invalid unit, actual invalid unit. I did that right.
So now, you know how to tell it when it's wrong. Now you just have to fix everything else.
No, everything else is not. It's not declared. So I declared output. I just didn't declare anything else. And double get distance character unit outputs a representation of the distance. There is no new line. The output will be formatted as distance unit, where distance is the distance to 2 decimal places and unit is one of the following. The conversion to perform is denoted by the parameter. If the unit given through the argument is invalid, output invalid unit in get distance. Okay, where's get distance? There it is. I did everything right. Oh, wait a minute. I think I know what I did wrong.
Oh, God. That's not good. Oh, it's not good. Yeah, that's happening right now.
Alright, run. Shit. A lot of stuff happened. Did you forget the parentheses before this?
So, good here.
Invalid use of a member function.
That's fine.
Shit.
You can take the number. So if I take 5.2, I would subtract 5.2.
I did the get distance function. Nope. Meters underscore equals meters doesn't exist. Okay. Yeah.
I don't think it matters on the when we run it for
100 in meters is blank.
You might have multiplied.
Yeah, see, I don't have any. Those will see to be the positions. Okay. Missing output? What?
Yeah, I'm stuck on 3 different programs.
Oh, that's all right.
It's just
freaking guys. Or the bottom one, which is the easy one to do. You just add 0.5 to them, then the whole number.
Unit is not declared in this scope. Shit. I'm just gonna delete all that. Well, not in that function. In the output function. I feel like I'm gonna run out of time and I'm not gonna know what the fuck I'm doing. I mean, I had plenty of time to do this. What? In the distance one, okay, so I have to set meters to a supplied value, and you just want to call the set meters mutator function. The value is set to the internal meters underscore 2. If the distance is negative, set to 0. So I have to do something in the distance function that does that.
Yeah. So this is your constructor that takes in one level. This is your constructor. These are all. Yeah.
Kind of funny is that it's 2 o'clock. Like, most of the class is still in this classroom.
This one though.
It's true, actually.
I get a phone call here in a minute to go to work, and they're just gonna be like, "Hey, you said you'd be here at 2 o'clock." I'm just, I'm kind of busy, kinda. Kind of busy.
Making sure I don't fail.
Making sure I pass the class.
Yeah, that's very important.
Because classes. I'm trying to read these instructions, but they're very vague. Set meters underscore to the supplied value. I don't know what the supplied value is.
You're gonna get compiler error messages right now. The meters underscore is your.
Oh, I think I got it now. Hold on. No, it's not what it's doing. Oh, it's distant? Okay. That makes a little bit more sense. Got it. I'm gonna put that down there. That's probably why it's freaking out.
Yeah, well, one would default.
Distance function.
Yeah, both one default to meters and the bottom one.
Let's try that. That didn't help. Oh wait, no, wait. Nope, that didn't work. Didn't work.
Well, obviously it's something I just did. Curly bracket.
It's better to call the distance because let's say this is false. You're gonna have to go. So it's better to have this here. So how do you do that, right? So here you just say get distance that will be get distance, it's trying to tell you to get distance takes in.
Oh, these are being declared. That makes more sense. It's being defined. So they say distance 1, so that's the name of one of them. Distance 2 is, it's saying that the set meters is 10, and in this function I have to call set meters. Nope, it didn't work.
Expected initializer before out.
I need help, but I don't know what questions to ask. I'm gonna have to just bring them over here and be like, help.
I just did too. Make it worse? Oh, yeah. What'd you do?
I really focused one thing. I thought
Wasn't weird.
1.set meters. Test the mutator. Mutator is not working.
I might. Well, it was working, and that's when I took the decision.
Can I convert distance meters from type double to type double? What?
Testing mutator. Failed. Testing get distance. Failed. I set it up correctly.
God, no. Hold on, wait a minute.
If it's testing the mutator, it should say, like, I don't know, it should take the value.
Well, I messed it up.
Oh, wait a minute. Maybe I have to set it to meters. Let's try that. Nope, that freaked out when I did that.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, this one, I saw some.
Yep, I need to ask a question. I need to ask why this isn't.
Alright, cool. iOS colon something?
Yeah.
There are semicolons in info statements, right?
There's no semicolons in if statements, no. Unless it's inside of the curly braces.
Yeah, that's
It will, yeah.
Very mad.
Is that?
So
yeah. So for output, you need to fix that because
I had it.
for these, it's
Huh?
Yeah, set distance isn't even initializing.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I didn't have to.
You're getting so much.
on this bottom one, but the rest should be fine.
Something like this, will look like this. That long one has a C out, dot, set, adder.
I mean, that's one, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you put that in, then.
Alright, cool.
Now. On C out.
Time to figure out how to turn it in. Me?
Thank you, Daniel. And,
Well, we put in. Oh, it was the rest of it.
Can't do it. Can't do it.
Close.
That's where you are right now.
Yeah. Alright, that was the best part. This complicated thing of like.
Oh, yeah, so like how you want to be, but.
But then like turn it back. It was gonna be a mess. But this is where it's. Do we need to?
Okay, Luke, I just have one question. So when I initialize everything, right, and I get it in the output, I know I made. Oh, what the hell? Oh, it's working now, but it's giving me some ugly numbers. Hold on. Because for some reason, oh my God, it's disconnecting from the server. Okay. When I run this, what the hell? Because when I'm in set distance, right? Where would I put meters equal to 0? That's one question.
Would it? Not in that one. That's an accessor.
So it shouldn't be in there?
That one you just return meters on.
Okay.
In set meters, if meters without the underscore is less than 0, then you would set meters underscore to 0.
If meters is less than 0?
Because that's the parameter, right? So if the value coming in is less than 0, then meters underscore equals 0, right? Because you don't want negatives.
Yeah, that's probably why none of my things were initializing.
And then else, because otherwise you want to set it, right? So you need else meters underscore equals meters, like the down most part.
Okay.
That'll help a lot of your tests, actually.
Okay, let's see.
Both of those.
Let me see what happens. Okay. Okay, now my set distance is kind of messed up. I think I did some of the conversions wrong.
Right, exactly. So now
okay, now my get distance isn't working now at all.
Are you returning get distance? Okay, so get distance.
Oh, I'm returning zip.
Right, and you can't change, but in get distance you can't change meters.
Oh.
Because meters are always meters. Get distance says they want it as a different unit, so you just have to return meters converted. So on this line, you need to say return meters underscore times that number.
Oh.
Don't restore it, just say return.
On every single one?
Yeah.
Oh.
Get rid of the equals.
Oh.
Right?
So I'll get rid of this?
Yeah, get rid of that. But you're gonna they're saying they want it in fathoms, so take whatever the units are now, convert them to fathoms, and return it back out.
Okay. And what I need to return at the end of this get distance function?
because if you're able to return all your get else's.
Okay.
I'm gonna get a question.
I figured it out.
So confusing. I'm getting a phone call. I knew it. Hello? Hello? I did say that, but I'm having a tiny little issue right now. And no, I will come today. It's just probably going to be a little later in the day. Yeah, I'm sorry that I had to reschedule it twice. Maximum an hour. Yeah. Yeah, maximum.
Well, it sets it up on
All right,
the
later.
output screen, so if you do it before your statement, they don't set it up. Like, it's like a set once, and then everything else follows. All doubles.
So I just do it like, yeah.
Run the switch.
About 12 was into it, we use different.
So in the output function. Alright, so it should be,
Bullshit.
output,
Right, curve. The next one, kind of like this, but harder.
I look at the next one. I think about that.
You have everything you need for it. That's the good news. Just get extra. We'll do a review a week from now.
Alright, my get distance is working, but it's not doing it the right way. So fathoms are broken.
Okay.
Okay, fathoms are broken.
Just get push.
Which ones are fathoms? A? Okay, let's try this.
But here's the thing. They said 3 files can change. So these are the 2 new files. Get add dot will always.
What else is broken? Inches? Yeah, inches is broken. So inches has to be divided. Okay. Feet is broken. Alright, so feet, inches, and fathom are broken. Okay. Let's go fix that. Feet, inches, and fathom.
This one, this one's not on the length is up.
I could just get a different server, I swear to God. Okay. Okay, now my constructor's fucked up. And now it's doing something like to the 310th decimal place. Okay. That's pretty broken. Okay, my set distance is broken. My kilometers and centimeters are fucked up. Okay. So K needs to be times 1,000. Oh. There we go. My centimeters is broken. That needs to be divided by. Okay, my miles to meters is broken. Lost connection.
4 minutes ago.
Damn it.
Oh, good work.
Lost connection to server again. Gonna kill somebody. Gonna kill the people who made the server. Okay, miles to. Okay, now my feet to meters is broken. Okay. My inches to meters is broken, and my fathom to meters is
I really
broken.
think you should just up the due date. Everybody needs updating.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say, okay, the next day.
Yeah,
That'll work.
maybe the next day.
That'll work perfectly.
Maybe the next class day.
Okay, I am now 75% done because everything works except for the constructors and output. The constructors and output are broken. Okay.
We can fix that pretty easily, I think.
I got this.
Why the hell would it want an actual?
Where are those constructors? Which one is the constructor here? Constructor 3 is distance and double meters. I don't think that's initialized yet. No, it's not initialized yet. That's probably why. And distance is initialized. No, it's not. Distance is not initialized. And let's see, what else is broken? Yeah, I know my constructor and output are broken.
Oh, that's a garbage number.
Oh, I think I know what the problem is now. I just have to return the values, that's why. Got it. You know, I'm gonna have to go to Luke at some point and have him explain to what I'm doing because I'm just going off what he said at the moment. It's gonna break, I swear.
Okay, finally, I've got this saved. I want to save this.
Okay, so it will.
Save.
Let's try this. This might work. Nope. Oh, that's broken.
My copy.
What does it say? Void? If function returning void. What? Oh, I know what the problem is. Okay. Or let me see if that's the problem. Yeah, that was not the problem. It says it's void. Permissive.
Get push, you don't have to write over. Yes, you just told me that. You can put on the top of it.
It's a bunch of bullshit. Okay.
You don't like to buy everything.
In function returning void. Returning statement with a value. Oh, I want to return the output.
I keep that. Because otherwise you would like have to document that like So what will happen is we're going to learn to like, you can set up the whole table, and then we're going to learn to write JavaScript. That's where it goes. I think they can, yeah.
Meters. Users always take the parameter and store it under their underscore. They always do that. They're never going to do it in the box. You do the same thing that everybody else does. Copy and paste. Yeah, you're not the only one. Not everybody, but at least 25% of my students do that. And they're like, they're going backwards and now we're going forward.
I just have one question.
The logic wasn't wrong, really, except for the wrong function call.
In my output, it wasn't outputting anything at all.
That's probably just because you weren't C outing yet.
Oh.
So these all need to be C outs, not return meters times that, but C out meters times that. That's why you weren't seeing it.
Why? Why do we got to do that?
That's okay though.
Why do I got to do that?
Right, and that's because we're going to set
Oh my god. Before it was returned, now it's C out. No one told me this shit.
So it did. Here's how I know. If you do a get status, it will list any files that haven't been added.
Okay, let's see if that works. I did it, except it's the wrong conversion.
As long as you get like the get add dot is like add everything else.
My feet are broken. My miles are broken. Fuck. Are you freaking kidding me?
You get add a dot.
Oh my god.
This was supposed to be a fantastic resource. I can't even get this to run.
My inches are broken. Shit. Why?
Especially with past class time where everyone's filling up.
Yeah, I know. It's like, Jesus.
Dude, it's like 2 more weeks.
My thousands are broken.
You're
Damn
very
it.
mad about this, aren't you?
Yeah, because I'm trying to figure this shit out.
But the weird thing is, you're like, well, I'm just trying to. I'm not looking at this thing.
What else is broken? My miles are broken? Okay.
I want you to add. Because what it'll do is.
Yeah, miles works. Yeah, everything works except my constructors.
Oh, I can't maybe.
I'm not gonna go snooping around. I get a copy of the same file system. I'm not gonna go ahead and. My greatest item 3, I'm gonna go into the assignment folder and.
Variable length care unit.
What's going on, boys? I don't know their spots over there.
I included it.
The next class is coming in.
Oh, I haven't been on in a while. I'm maxed out.
It says distance.h doesn't exist. I made a copy.
What's going on?
Well, I found one spot where it compiled, so I copied all of it to a separate file so that I could look at it and go, okay, that compiles, and this doesn't. But I'm having trouble saving it because it says that distance.h doesn't exist, but I included distance.h. Well, I don't know why it would say that.
Uh-oh. Oh, I know what I did wrong. I need to set something equal to, like something that says it will be negative, or if it is negative, it will just be visible.
If
If it's negative, it's 0.
I know, but like, what? Which one do I have to set it to? That? Which constructor? Oh yeah, it was the distance, double length, and character unit.
I'm gonna go to Mount.
Everyone else knows.
One Denzel to another.
I just have one question. So, in distance, double length, and character unit, it wants.
Never had a Denzel, and I got 2 this semester.
It wants me to it wants me to do something here where I have to set something meters underscore distance set to 0.
Right. So this is your parameter, right? It's coming in, and it's saying that if that parameter is negative,
Yes.
then you have to set meters underscore to 0 because you can never have negative things.
Are you talking about this constructor or this one?
I'm talking about this one.
That's
the one. That's
so I'll
one
just
you're
say
reading.
if meters is equal. Or,
Yeah, but didn't you already write that?
I wrote that up
And
on.
set meters, right?
Yeah.
So all you do is you just say, oh, let's just let it do the work. Set meters, pass in the meters that I have. Done.
Okay.
Just let it do the work.
Now another thing too is after I run this, my constructors are gonna freak out.
Hey.
They're gonna be like to the 30th decimal place.
Well, that one because you haven't written it yet, and this one because you haven't written it yet. But we just wrote this one, and it's done now.
Oh. So now I just have to.
This one you just set meters underscore to 0. This one, it's the same thing as set distance. So you just call set distance, just like I did with set meters.
Got it. Yeah, Denzel.
You're the first one I saw had
It's, how is your name spelled?
D-E-N-Z-E-L.
Oh, mine is Denzel. S-E-L-L.
So,
You ever met?
I found a spot.
I've never met another one.
My
No.
file compiled.
Okay.
So I copied it all over into another file, but it's telling me the distance.h doesn't exist.
Are they all in the same?
It's also telling me
They're not in the
that
same folder. Where's this file?
You're unnamed.
Right, because here's all your assignment 3 files here. I don't know where that file is.
I didn't know it had to be in the same folder.
Yeah, right, because it's gonna, it's not the same file in the same folder.
That's why it's giving me like lab 16, like
Yeah.
7.
They all gotta be together.
So like if I sit,
Oh my god. Whatever he told me, I kind of just like threw it out the window real quick. So I need to figure this shit out.
I make a
Use the system
like,
of what you
And when you're 18, you can do whatever you want, right?
No. Instead, you inherently make like so. Some
Holy.
Oh, your name is bullshit.
Yeah, my name is well, yeah, and it also depends on your size. No, it has to be like your monitor, and then on average.
There's so many trolls.
Yeah, that's fine. But like like big really big people, like.
So you think that's your weight? It's
I mean, it would be part of it. The sound you make when you
I need to bring it back over.
That's so
Or if you have like
Just to clarify, do I use set meters and type in these parameters here?
For which one? No, for which one?
For
no, those parameters are coming into those arguments come into your parameters. Okay. So if you go here and you go down to your constructor.
Yes.
Right for
this one.
So you just call set distance. All right. Capital S.
What it actually should be is like
set distance. No.
Capital D.
No, go back. One more. Capital D. No, set distance takes in a length and a unit, right? So in the parentheses, you pass in your length and your unit.
And that would be the one that's already written here.
But this 5 and A, if you go back over here, are going in. Length is is 5 and unit is A.
Okay.
So you don't hard code it in because you don't know, right? It has
So all I have to do is just type that.
Length, comma, unit.
Oh, got it.
You have to pass it in.
Okay.
That's just your simple.
Yeah, more powerful.
Yeah. When I do that like a couple times, because there's a couple of them, or just do it once.
Because it only gets called on creation, right? Function's gonna get called on.
Okay, let's see. Okay, well, this one's not working, and that one's not working.
Yeah, so in your set distance function, you must not be handling a negative value. And then you never wrote anything in that function.
Yeah, I should probably write something in there.
That's what you have.
Yes, I have a
stable tool.
variable that I added. Should I add that in the header file?
You should put it in the function definition of whatever function you want.
Gotcha.
So if you went into the output function, after the curly brace, to start the output function, double click.
For our comments, can we just use your comments?
Yeah, you really don't need many comments or these. You're actually not commenting. I'm just giving you 3 points.
Awesome, thank you.
Set meters? I didn't do that.
Precision.
I deleted that. Oh, I didn't update it. That's why. Okay.
Lecture 4, alpha. Make sure it's
There's your answer. I'm gonna make you do some of the work. I'm gonna go eat a sandwich. If I don't go eat a sandwich, I'm just gonna be angry. That's just not good.
Look, I need to talk to you one more
I'm not
time.
helping anybody. Right?
So to deal with that negative, what I did is exactly what you said by setting.
Right, but that's in the set meters function.
So where is it checking for that one then?
Well, what do you think? I'm not gonna tell you.
Okay. Well,
What do you think? Notice you're creating a distance object, and what are you passing in?
2 parameters.
2 parameters. So which one has 2 parameters?
That one would be this one down here.
Your constructor that has 2 parameters, right?
Right here.
And where's it going to?
It's going to set distance.
Right. So
set distance has to have something in there. Okay.
to check to make sure that it's not.
Okay.
How convenient is that? Look at that. You don't have to have any paperwork.
That would honestly, like,
So I just basically copy this and put it in the center.
No, but there's more numbers that are
you
associated.
scan it and it shows your face.
Yeah, no, tattooing's illegal, right? So you only tattoo, yeah, you have to get.
Are we on this board again? Are we going off that road now for ammonia?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's, what was I gonna call it? The Socialist Federation of Basel. So if I want to push again,
More
just
like-
push.
Yeah, just keep pushing, man.
Right, upload it. Otherwise, you let it happen.
I don't know though.
Oh, I have to say if length is whatever. Okay. Yeah.
Nothing more we can do.
Just gonna get committed. No, you're good. That's great. Still playing hard?
No, dude.
Well, you got it way too late, bro.
Broke that disc after you had stopped playing.
You came in like 4 months later. We told you to get it, and then
You
over like
definitely did.
yeah, like 2 months into summer, you're like, I got art. Okay.
What you said, don't get it unless it's in summer, because you're gonna come time. It's like,
Yeah, we stopped playing. It's too hard to get in now. You can't really get
Got it. Now I just need one more, and that's the first one that is written as.
Every now and then.
Hi, Jerry. Did you do this coding assignment?
Typical offline.
I don't really know. I'm just randomly. I don't even know if I'll finish it.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm pretty far into it, so I don't know if you'll be able to help me.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Let's see.
Okay.
I just need to change this one value, and it's it. Right now it says 6.91508 e to the negative 3/10, and it's supposed to be 0. It's 6 point whatever to the 310th decimal place, so I just need to fix that. All it says is it's asking for 1 dot meters. So that's all I have to do is write it in here.
Oh.
Oh my god. Why? All I had to do was set it to 0. All I had to do.
Did you screw it?
No, you know how mine said like since it was a garbage number and it said like 6 point whatever? All I had to do in that function was set meters underscore equal to 0. All I had to do. Luke was like, I'm not going to tell you how to do that. Okay. He won't tell me something that simple. Uh-oh. My set distance function is broken now. That's not good.
It's not.
That is not good. Oh, I know what happened. I just need to comment this out and this will fix it right up.
Look at that. Hey, like them apples.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm done with it. Are you done with it, Parker? Yeah, a little bit.
Are you gonna start it or?
Probably not.
Are you gonna do it?
Nah, we gotta.
I think I'm gonna have to.
What do you guys,
Well,
you're playing programming?
usually.
Oh, you freaking serious?
How are they gonna get to it?
I don't know, Brandon can use that.
Okay, I'll definitely do it from stuff.
Well, let's do it midnight.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's why I'm definitely doing it before midnight.
11:30.
11:30, probably started at 7. Probably. I got it done in an hour. So technically, you start at 11, you can done it. If you understand.
So copying that file so that I would have a resource of what was compiling was a bad idea because it just made everything worse. So I had to undo that. Now I don't have a copy to look at.
Oh my god.
Right?
You're having a tiny little problem.
Oh, I'm having like 8 tiny little problems manifesting into a freaking Hydra.
Oh my god, come on.
Wonder who gets that reference.
I know what Hydra is, but I don't know what reference you made that to.
Well, a Hydra is a mythological beast where you cut off one head, 2 more grow back.
Yeah.
Every time I fix something,
It just gets bad.
It gets worse. It gets worse.
worse.
It's like, yeah, it's fixed, but it's worse.
I'm having one teeny tiny problem. I'm probably just gonna have to say fuck it. Because it's because my distance object, one of the parameters is a -5, and I told it how to deal with negatives in a different function, but right now it's not dealing with it, and I'm kind of pissed just a little bit. Just gonna keep.
My deck is just a blue.
Huh? What? What happened? What? Why can't I see that?
I have 2 creatures.
My buddy Calvin. Oh yeah, my buddy.
So that works.
I fixed that, and now the set distance function is fucked up.
Oh really? Yeah.
No, my deck is
I don't know. He's like a big champ.
I don't know. I can mill 30 cards a turn.
He plays standard mostly.
Okay.
From which mill density?
This is standard. My deck is standard. My deck's standard. That's all our devastation on pet. That should still be standard, isn't it? Or is it out of standard now? All on pet is still standard. Our might be out of standard now. My main go-to deck was an angel deck. That's not standard at all.
It doesn't like that.
Yeah, especially because none of my
It doesn't like my FL statement. I have a ton of those.
So I just kill them.
You have something flying like.
Yeah, all of my cards fly.
I gotta go so I can go eat lunch in my car.
And I gotta go to work, kinda. So I'm just gonna say fuck it. I'm just gonna say fuck it.
I'll work on it later.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. Fuck it. Back to it.
Yeah, but those turn 1 decks are like I really understand. Like you have to draw the turn 10. I don't. Generally within 4 turns I can be milling at least 20 cards.
Okay, my set distance function is fixed, but fuck it. Also, when you go over there, can you put my oh my god. More than you had before.